Greetings, everybody. I'm here early. I'm interrupting your flow. You know why? We got no time to waste. How's that for trickery? Don't expect that all the time, though. It's just because I'm sitting here buzzing. I don't know if it was from the coffee or from the paragraphs I was just reading while you were all meditating. You know what? When you get into the flow of this whole equity thing, I'm not joking, loved ones. It is a meditation. When you start to feel the vibe of what it is we're doing, you're literally in that flow all the time. This is you actually receiving downloads of what justice actually looks like. This is a feeling, loved ones. This isn't just what they taught us in public school. No, that's the fake version. Again, Satan's tricks from the garden. Or again, when we got kicked out of the garden, right? Who's in charge of that place right now? Who's managing it? Who's there? Right? I know one subtle little serpentine type fella that was in the garden when we got kicked out. So that tells me that bastard's probably still there. And I'm starting to think and feel like, you know what? When we're in this meditative state, when we're in this flow, when we're understanding why affidavits are important, and we understand why an affidavit mixed with a petition put together properly is one of the most incredible boom type situations that we can be doing for ourselves. Believe it or not, like when Dean and I used to make identifications for ourselves back in the day, you know, we'd put our own little picture on there and a thumbprint and a little blurb, and we'd get the notary to stamp it. We actually had a fair bit of success with that stuff, not really even knowing what we truly had and what we were truly deficient in. Again, when I look back on some of our earlier attempts at stuff, I giggle now, right? Of course, but at the time, it sure felt like the right thing to do. Point being here, when we're in this constant meditative state, we're so close to being re-entered into the garden. This is this feeling, this warmth. You know, the air is nice and humid. Got a lot of green trees around here. This place kicks ass. I'm glad we're back. This affidavit is you bringing yourself back into the game. Because I'm going to share a screen here with you, loved ones, in a minute. Again, out of Gibson's book. Gibson, Henry Gibson, a chancellor from like 120 odd, 30 odd years ago, whatever. Brilliant man. Him and his colleagues back in the day, these guys really knew their stuff. This gentleman happens to have, I don't know, he's probably up to like 10 editions of his book by now. This guy's been dead 150 years, but yet somebody is updating his book and making it relevant to the times today. Who's doing that? Kind of odd. Again, here's another example of oddities relating equity. Okay, so we had the whole equity side of this game watching what the common law side was doing. Equity can't really get involved. Common law is allowed to do what it needs to do. If people are willing to volunteer to participate in it, there technically always has to be that arena available if people want to do that. Otherwise, that's a trespass. For me not to allow you to go do something you need to do, as long as it doesn't harm me, that would be a trespass on my end, trying to subvert you from doing it. So the system can't do that. The system is benign. It's neutral. It only operates based on what we put into it. Again, we haven't put much into it over the course of our whole lives. That's part of the problem. That's part of the problem that supports, hey, the record shows that we've abandoned our interests. The record shows that we're not even here. The record shows that there's a confused title out there. We got clouds. We got a whole bunch of negative stuff. We got entries into the book of death, technically. Now, whether you want to spin the whole placenta idea, that thing came out as a product of conception. It had a heartbeat. It had fluiding around inside it and stuff, right? So anyway, a few hours later, this thing now ceases to exist. Now, that word ceases is important. It stops. It ceases, like, you know, no longer. So they issue a certificate suggesting that, hey, this thing basically meets all the requirements of a stillborn. So according to our job description, we're supposed to, you know, create a certificate of title for that event. Here you go. They literally mail that to us. Now, again, there's a lot of other guys and ladies out there who talk a lot about that whole angle. That's another pretty cool whole wormhole or rabbit hole if you want to go down. Point being here, loved ones, the affidavit is not a part of the record as it stands. So we got a record. Pretend it's a cup. This cup has got something in it, you're not even really allowed to see what's in it, to believe it or not. But we never come along and we go, well, wait a minute, I do want to take a look. Oh, what the hell is that? But I see a lot of space. There's a lot of volume here that I can work with. We show up with this cup. Oddly enough, we're going to be talking about this tonight in our other show. What do we want to put in our cup? It almost sounds like a holy grail scenario if you do it right. We want to drop an affidavit into the record is what I'm trying to say. Now, if we don't put evidence or information or facts and events and things that you believe to be true, whether you like that word or not, doesn't matter. It still plays a part in all this. This process of filling out an affidavit is your magic wand to get something for the judge to see what it is you're specifically trying to do, what you're trying to say, what it is you're trying to accomplish, really. And we can affect a whole lot of substance, a whole lot of meat and potatoes within a page or three-ish, in here somewhere. Again, that one colleague of ours in the States that I keep referring to, I remember him suggesting in one of his seminars that he kind of did like an affidavit of life or an affidavit of here I am type thing, an introduction to himself. And he said it was 100 pages long. Now keep in mind, this gentleman is a very skillful man with his mind. He was studying to be a writer. He went to Harvard or Oxford or one of these types of very prestigious universities. So this guy's no dummy. So when he suggests he wanted to spend 100 pages to get that first step laid out, I'm thinking, kudos if you're capable of doing that. I'm suggesting I want to try to do it in one, maybe three. What are we putting in our affidavit? Okay, well, we're talking about things that we have firsthand knowledge of, things that you've actually been a part of since you were born, and since you were about 3 years old, 4 years old, when we could start to remember shit. Right about then is when your collective memory starts, and is when you can attest to facts. I can't recall, Your Honor, the day that the birth certificate in that name, apparently for my use, showed up in the mail, right? That happened before I was cognizant of these things. So there's a period in time there when you're born and when you actually have no real record. Mom and dad aren't really dropping anything in your favor. There's a record here. This thing's spinning. This is like a treadmill. This thing's rolling. Something's going on here. But we never get on it. We stand there and watch it. And watch it. And that thing's waiting. And we just kind of both stand here looking at each other and nothing's happening. This is where, if you're not vigilant with your rights, if you're not vigilant with these ideas, these techniques, these teachings, this information, this jurisprudence, if people are trying to tell me that this jurisprudence is a bunch of hogwash, again, we've had loved ones even on this chat right now whose wives or husbands think that this is all a bunch of phony baloney and silliness. Come on, go get a real job, go be useful. Yeah, okay, sure. Have that opinion. I hear you, my friend. I'm not going to trespass on your beliefs, right? That's not equitable. All I'm going to do is just lay out what it is and where it is that we're going, what we're discovering. And through our experiences that we can share a collective memory. Our affidavit, again, I'm going to bring up Gibson's book here, talking about what affidavits are in just a minute, because again, you're about to find why firsthand knowledge of facts is one thing and then beliefs is another thing. And here's where we can actually spin the two of these things and use them to create a little story. And this little story is going to actually blow the doors right off the common law. And it's going to allow us an opportunity to get our case heard in chambers privately without notice to the public, because this hot potato is too hot. We don't even have time to send notice out to the public. We don't need to. If the judge steps in and says, no, you must send notice to the public guardian and trustee, we'll let that sit for a second. Then we can say, okay, Your Honor, I hear what you're trying to say. When you tell me, send my notice to the public guardian and trustee first, because they may have a mechanism hiding in the background that dissolves a lot of our problems before you got to bring your shit to court. So, Darren, are you listening? Rob, are you listening? Friend of mine from back in the day. The public guardian trustee is the position we're all in where they were appointed by the court to be our guardians until we prove at the age of majority that we're capable of managing our own affairs. That guardian is with us. Sometimes it's a guardian angel, and I'm going to say sometimes it's a guardian other. This guardian ward relationship, you're a ward of the state. When we identified with that birth certificate to apply for their social program, that's the moment we became a ward of the state. Well, Darren, weren't we a ward before that because we didn't really do anything with our title? And doesn't the condition of the father, his dad, your dad, my dad, wasn't your dad also a debtor? Wasn't he in the liability category? So doesn't that condition precedent kind of follow the baby? Yeah, we're born into that sin. That's what scripture's talking about. Mom and dad set the sin up for us because they're sinners. So see how it's likely that baby's going to be a sinner too because mom and dad haven't figured their shit out. So the courts can actually operate on that presumption. So here's a certificate. Doing. There you go. Exercise your own free will. Do whatever you want with it. Show up and apply for these social programs. Here's the interesting thing, though. With these social programs, they're very constructed like an affidavit. They're literally getting us to solemnly declare or solemnly affirm that what I'm about to do, I'm okay with it. Now, again, when you're 14, 15, 16 years old, having known that if I volunteer for this, I'm volunteering to pay taxes. Even at 16, would you have thought, well, wait a minute. I sort of know what the hell the word volunteer means. Hang on, I'm going to go do a little bit of digging before I sign this piece of paper. I did not read the middle portion of that document when I was 16. I didn't read any of it. To be honest with you, I didn't. I put your name in, put your birth date in, put your sign here, but I didn't read it at all. Just enough to fill out the stupid thing. Okay, well, if I'm to be held legally responsible for such an incredibly important decision based on I don't really know what the hell all these words are. Did any of us go hire a lawyer to interpret this document before we filled it out? No. I don't remember any of us doing that. I've never heard of someone doing that. And we've been doing this a long time. Back to affidavits. The record exists. That record is going, it's flowing, it's doing stuff. The public and the guardians, they're all involved in this record. It's their record because mom and dad entered it into their world, their game, their realm. So now that this thing's rocking and rolling, it just keeps moving. There's a lot of energy putting into this. We show up now with an affidavit, specially constructed. Again, we got to do a few things, as Gibson's book here is going to talk about real quick. If you do not duly affirm, duly autograph, duly execute your affidavit, you know what it's worth? Nothing. I've spent years helping myself, Dean, and others all over the world develop affidavits. You want to know how many of those we included all that duly stuff? Very few. Again, we'd use it here and there. I remember using it here and there, but then we'd just not use it for another 2 years because we kind of failed to realize just how important that duality really was. We didn't really see the duality because we didn't really understand or believe the whole equity side and what it was capable of. We knew we didn't want to be a person or a corporation or an organization organized within Her Majesty, the registration date. That's another birthday. So we change this record, we input, we add, we create an accord. An accord is like a record. Accord, record, see, they're close. But we got one starts with RE and one starts with AC. I bet you they are very different terminologies. Those two prefixes are going to have an incredibly different spin on the rest of that word. An accord is something like a man or a woman creates because it's in accordance with maybe scripture. I don't know, maybe have that one floating around in your mind. So now we have an opportunity through this affidavit to put very special things, very specially created for very special purposes, with the expectation of very special results and remedies and all the other good stuff coming. So take this opportunity to use this to dial this in really nice and tight at this time. Again, we've got what's today? Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. We got 3-ish days to have the rest of this document buttoned so that the loved one Bryce here and others, if they're in a predicament and need something like this by Tuesday, here, this one will be done. So although I'm still going to be massaging it, I'm still going to be adjusting it, I'm still morphing it around. So just go with the flow of this. Just watch it. Just observe. Look as you're reading it, whatever feelings it's bringing up. If this, oh my God, I don't know what the hell you're talking about here. Okay, set that aside. Interestingly enough, because I was just looking at this, I'm going to fast forward. Affidavits are ordinarily needed in support of motions in the following cases. I'm going to share the screen right now because I'm actually quoting it out of the book. Hang on. I think I got it. Okay. What? I'm trying. How's that? Can we see? Nice. Okay. Look. Okay. So again, affidavits coming out of this guy's book. I'm going to scroll to the very section I was just talking about here. Again, this is all posted for everyone later, so you guys can all check this out. This is, what is this? What did I say? This is like 4 pages long, I think. But what I just want to get down to here. Oh, I just passed it. Okay. Hang on for a second.
In the meantime, Darren, can you just click the X on the blue box? It covers up some writing.
All right, let's get rid of that. Okay, this is what I was just reading right here. Okay, court facts which do not otherwise appear in the record of a cause. So this is saying, hey, they're talking about the record. And they're saying that in general, to bring before the court facts which do not otherwise appear to be in the record. That's the whole point of an affidavit. So right below that, check this one out. Affidavits are ordinarily needed in support. Stop right there. You'll notice at the very title or the commencement of our affidavit, I don't have it in front of me, but I remember it because I wrote it. Right at the very beginning of this thing, it says in support of. Your affidavit needs to be in support of or in opposition to. Pick one. You have to have that in your affidavit. Must. Why? Because Gibson says so. This is a smart man. Okay, so I guess we can just start with the very beginning of this because, again, this is some pretty neat stuff. Okay. Office of an affidavit. That means if there's an office, that means there's an officer. An officer of what? I'm going to suggest the corporation y'all got in your back pocket and your purse. Start with that one. That's what you are, the primary officer of. We just didn't really know it. This is why we were always abandoning it our whole life. And the system goes, well, if you're going to abandon that basket full of golden eggs, we're going to scoop it up and we're going to use it to prevent waste. That's how this entire freaking system works. Luckily enough, when we come forward and say, hey, wait a minute, I want my basket of golden eggs back. The system goes, well, here's yours, but don't, there you go, next. The system, it's not like you offend the system by demanding our shit back. No, we're actually creating an incredible burden on the system by not getting our shit back. Can you imagine having a babysitter appointed to you for your whole life? You're 58 years old, you got a babysitter. You just don't know it. What's he or she called? The guardians. They're all in the background, guardianing our asses. Oh, that almost sounded like gardening. These guardians were the wards. Wards, remember, synonymous word with infants, lunatics, belligerents, enemies, hostiles, bad people generally, all people with no land rights, people with no property rights. Lunatics have no property rights. This is why the state or the government steps in and manages their own affairs, because they're not capable. But you know what? At the same time, why wouldn't one of their family members then step forward and do that? Why does the state always have to do that? Why? Because that lunatic doesn't have a single man or woman in his family that's also not a lunatic. Just because that guy's in a psych ward doesn't really mean he's any more of a lunatic than us running around out here acting in person, right? We put people in prisons because they're acting in different characters. And yet we're all doing it over here in person world. So it's like, okay, bit of a conflict of interest here. I'm thinking, ooh, better clean our own house before we start pointing at everybody else's dirty carpets. But again, Satan doesn't give a shit about any of this. He's just there to trick us and fool us and get us into this surety position where you pledge your entire life to be the surety of a corporation that you don't own. Well, that sounds like a fantastic deal, but not for us. It's actually the exact opposite. But here's the good news. Because it was such a shitty deal on this hand, equity says, well, it must be the milk and honey on the other hand, if they ever figure it out. So the good stuff, the land of safety is over here. We just got to get there. Here's a big part of how we get there. An affidavit. Okay. An affidavit is a statement. What's a statement? Well, a state is like a place, right? You got all these states in the United States. They're all places. Really, they are. Could a state of mind be described as a place? Yeah. Are you of the firmament or are you of the mush? Well, they're both places. Pick one. So let's describe what our statement is in our affidavit. What is our state of mind? Again, these are little drops that if for the learned or the disciplined man or woman who actually has equity eyes and actually understands what's really going on here, you look at what they're trying to tell us. That right there, okay, is "and" even count as a word? I don't know. I don't think it does. Affidavit, there's a word. Statement. So we're like 5 symbols into this, but look at, they're actually opening the door for us to declare or us to determine what the hell a statement is. What is your state of mind? So let's do that in our affidavit. Let's take a moment to actually address that. Reduce it to writing. So you had a state of mind. Remember, because meant is mind. We've all heard that a number of times. So we're going to take a state of mind and we're going to reduce it to writing. And sworn to this state of mind before some person authorized to administer the oath. There you go. They're literally equating the word affidavit to an oath. This is you making an oath, which is why at the beginning of the affidavit it says, do you swear on oath or do you affirm? Okay, scripture says don't swear on anything. Says that a number of times, as a matter of fact. So it got to the point where it's like, okay, well, maybe we shouldn't be swearing anything. But if we can affirm our minds, if we can have a firm mind, I don't see too much of a problem with this. But anyway, moving forward here pretty quick. The ordinary offices of an affidavit are ordinary offices. That implies there's a few possibilities. Number one, to aid in supporting. Boom, good thing we put our affidavit is in support of something, or opposing. An application for an order of the court. Again, an application is a petition, is a request, is a requisition. Okay, application means several things. For a court order, whether such application or petition be based on a motion or on a petition. To serve as a substitute for an officer's return of services. So this thing is actually going to set up an address so that whoever is the officer of this thing, whoever wrote this affidavit, we can contact this guy or this lady, and we can move papers around. We can verify bills and answers and pleas when verification is necessary, and in general, to bring before the court facts which do not otherwise appear in the record of a cause. We have a cause. A cause happened. Something happened because I have a certificate that proves it. There's your proof of cause. It's because I have this. Affidavits are ordinarily needed in support of motions in the following cases. Now, I got a bunch of stuff highlighted in my version, so that means there's some meat coming up here. Okay, so an affidavit is needed for the publication when, okay, wait a minute, what's publication? Oh, is that when, Darren, you were talking about when they post notice in the Gazette? Is that when they're making a public notice? They're notifying the creditors and other parties that you're about to do something incredible? Yeah, that's what publication means. When personal service is dispensed with, personal service, that kind of sounds like you took maybe a personal property, maybe a personal estate, maybe you wrapped it up in a personal trust, and maybe now we're searching for a personal representative. Anyway, personal service is dispensed with. That means something happened, some type of service to do with a personal something was just dispensed with. It actually happened. Motions for the appointment of guardians ad litem. This actually happened already. This is part of the process they used against us. We weren't even given notice of it because when you don't express interest in something, they are not obligated to send you notice. That's how they can proceed with, that's how they can do so much shit in the background without us even knowing about it. Why? Why do they get away with that? Well, when you don't express an interest in anything they're doing, they don't have to tell you. Remember, they're bound by all this secrecy stuff. They're not allowed to talk about it. Now, when you show up in person, they're especially not allowed to talk about it with you because you're the lunatic. They're not going to share sensitive information with the lunatic. Get back to your cell, your nice padded room, and wherever it is you're living in. Okay, carrying forward. Applications for process without bonds for costs. So when you see an application for process without bonds for costs or damages, that means somewhere there's hiding an application for process with bonds for costs and damages. That's coming. Oh, well, look, here's whoops, what did I do there? Here's a good one that we're going to be looking at. Applications for an injunction. Yes, we want to use that. Number 5, applications for an attachment of property. Ooh, yes, we want attachments. Every time you see the word attachment, jump on it. That's you taking that thing. Okay, you know in the movie Aliens, when that little thing was stuck to their face? Okay, that's us undoing it, peeling it off. Whoa, that person, I don't, and giving it to someone else. That's an attachment. We can attach debt. Hey, I can identify debt, such and such registration number. This thing was created and vehicle identification and all kinds of identifiers. I can take that property, I can take that debt, and I can attach it to a trust. And now maybe someone else in the background is going to move funds around so that that truck is paid for quietly, secretly through your securities account. And then the business manager says, here, Steve, yeah, everything went through. Here's the keys. Let us know when you're done. We literally get to use the truck. Again, don't own it, because as soon as you own it, you have to pay for all the repairs. You got to pay for the oil changes. You got to make sure that this thing stays in perfect condition in case you ever really want to sell it again, right? Only an owner thinks like that. Got to maintain everything. Got to pay for everything. That's why they tricked us into believing we owned that birth certificate so that we would look after it at all costs. We would protect it. We'll pay for it. Remember, it said right on it, store it or keep this thing in a safe place. I laugh at that one. Yeah, here, give it to the lunatics so that they can keep it in a safe place. See, that's why this is such, when you all start to see how this shit unwinds, it's such a slap in the face for what's actually what we volunteered for, which is why equity says no man or woman in their right mind would ever volunteer for this, would ever do this, would never do this for free. Otherwise, that man or woman would be a lunatic. There. That's what got this game going. Okay, we're attaching things. We're attaching aliens to things. We're exercising our right to alienability, I guess. We're peeling that alien off, and because we're able, we're, okay, just a little equity humor there. An application or a petition to have a receiver appointed. Yes, please. Motions to set aside pro confesso. That's a motion to set something aside. What's pro confesso? That means taken in confession. in confession of. Yeah, Your Honor, I took this thing. I identified as it. I know I wasn't supposed to, but I did. So take that, pro confesso. Now let's set that aside, Your Honor, because it was all done not quite by fraud. It was just my fault. I didn't know any of this legal shit when I was 15 years old. I just can't, again, I'm just so excited to work at McDonald's. I don't know of any 15-year-olds capable of comprehending a social insurance number contract or a social security contract or whatever, again, whatever they call it in England. But yet, again, this is where they tricked us. As they brought us up through this public education system, they deemed us to be ready to take on this burden. Yeah, thank you. That's why I checked out early, because I smelled a rat. Actually, I smelled a room full of rats. And even though I missed so much of my childhood, loved ones, because I was grounded. Dean will tell you, I missed a lot of important shit in my life because I was grounded. I wasn't allowed out of my room because I wasn't doing my schoolwork. I wasn't doing my homework. I was still disrupting the class. This is the third time the teachers called home this week. Boom, I get grounded. I was grounded all the time. I spent so much freaking time in my room. That's where my art skills developed because I had nothing else to do. I didn't like reading. I liked looking at pictures. And I started drawing, doodling. And then it led to a career in the movie industry. I got so good at it because I spent so much freaking time in my room. So let's pretend we have a youngster now, these 15-year-olds. Let's start showing them what's actually happening. As our glossary starts breaking down and some of these words, we crayon them a little bit better. Okay, we'll actually be able to sit a 15-year-old down and maybe just capture their interest for just long enough, little shots at a time, until they kind of start to say, hey, well, what? Oh, but facts are, loved one of you now has this upstairs to actually start to explain some of this stuff. To re-examine a witness. Okay, well, we're not really doing that. Look at this one, though. Number 12, for better prosecution surety. For better prosecution surety. We're bringing a petition. We're bringing a security so that maybe someone can be prosecuted or someone can prosecute. Something's going on here. That's a really interesting one. For a new trial or rehearing. Why would we want a new trial or rehearing through our affidavit? Let's pretend you're on the public side getting your ass kicked and you're about to go to jail in 4 days. You better bring something in your affidavit now suggesting, hey, if it so turns out, Your Honor, that I don't get all this shit done in time to have all my interests cured, a 100% type of idea, I'm just going to reserve the right for a new trial or a rehearing, maybe on the equity side. Because I know at the public side, when it closes and when, you can't hear any of my equitable defenses anymore, I'm reserving the right here to have a rehearing, a de novo rehearing in equity. Build that shit right into your affidavit. Reserve that right. Don't just say, again, Dean and I, we're mostly at fault for creating this. I reserve all rights. You know how stupid that saying is? So what, you just reserved all your legal rights again and your equitable rights? See how you just defeated the trust you just tried to create? Whoa, shit. Yeah, whoops. And yeah, Dean and I were some of the big perpetrators of this reserved all rights bullshit. When you say all, that means fucking everything, loved ones. Don't say that. Be specific. Okay, I gotta calm down a bit. Reserve special stuff. Reserve specific stuff. And you know what? I don't know. Reserve the right to a rehearing. Yeah, I'd put that under your signature. So that if anything I'm talking about is ever subject to a hearing or a public ass kicking, I just kind of protected myself right here by saying I reserve the right to a rehearing in equity. Regardless of what happens above. What else would I want to reserve? Let's reserve your equitable rights. There. You just cut that thing down the middle. Pretend you just reserved the good half. You don't want to reserve the shit you just got away from. You literally just went and you just took that alien off the face of the trustee and you just went, ha, and you put it right back on, tied it right back up again. Ha, look at me, how stupid I am. See? No, loved one. No. We could get pretty fancy with what we want to reserve. Again, the word reserve, that means serving. You've been served with debt, taxation, liability, oppression, death, sickness, a whole bunch of shit. You've been served that your whole life, and we accepted it. That's a transaction. That's an agreement of some type. That's you agreeing to everything that they're offering, which is why they're allowed to still do all this shit to us. Okay, so if we've been served that, I would like to serve it back. Well, how do I serve it back? I have to serve it, like tennis. Okay, you won that last match. Haha, yeah. You fooled me. Yeah, you're real good. But now it's my turn. It's my turn to serve. So serve. Again, what other stuff would we want to reserve? I'd say Dominion, because I'm living in Canada. I've got a country here that was founded as the Dominion of Canada. Lucky to be Canadians, maybe. But here's the better thing. This is why it's beneficial for everybody. Scripture talks about us having dominion of the world, the earth, the planet as we know it. As soon as you have dominion, you know what just happened? You just got all your control back. So I would definitely, once I sort of got my dominion, I would put a bubble around that. I would protect that. I would reserve that freaking thing as much as I can. Because if you don't reserve your own dominion, that means someone else can literally run in, scoop it up, and run away with it. But you didn't even see that happen. That's why this is so dirty, this whole trick. We had no idea that any of this shit's going on in the background. Again, that's what makes this so icky. Okay, so you've probably had a little bit of a chance to read some of that. Okay, do I have to talk about anything else here? Okay, well, look, number 15. Oh no, sorry. Okay, 14. For leave to file a bill of review for new facts. Wow, that's a nice one. I even enunciated it a little bit nicer. Leave. I talk about leave a lot. Here's, Your Honor, here's my petition for leave. What's the grounds for your petition? Oh, well, so that I can file a bill or a petition of review for new facts. You see how you just cornered the judge? He's not going to want to know what facts. He can't ask you that, because now you'd be starting to talk about all your equity shit. See, he's not even going to ask you. All he can do is say motion granted. That's that loaded statement. That's that loaded question. That's where having equity eyes and a bit of a command of the power that we all had once, which is why Satan wanted to take it from us so bad. Once we're starting to realize, just a few words and a few alliances and a few alignments and a few shufflings, we can actually start to come into a position or a state of mind where we have the ability to do some incredible things. Again, all the stuff Scripture's talking about. Review the new facts. What are the new facts? Well, check out my new affidavit, Your Honor. This new affidavit in support of all the new facts, it's pretty dynamite. It's going to blow your socks off. That already do not sufficiently appear on or of the record. Well, that's what's going to get you driving or in control of an affidavit that actually has some purpose, some intent, and some power behind it. Once this type of affidavit gets notarized, this is going to be the game changer. Again, when we are bringing affidavits, not duly, means we've been bringing affidavits in person our whole lives, which means they're of no freaking force and effect. They're all for show. It was an illusion. How many affidavits have I cranked out in the 20 years I've been doing this with Dean? A lot. A lot of the 20 years plus was dedicated to affidavits. And look, we're still dealing with it today. So again, I'm just going to remind everybody, I've got another little paragraph I've updated to the affidavit for you to put your eyeballs on again here. And you're going to see why this new little paragraph is kind of important, because it's talking about all the stuff we're going over here. So this is just, okay, so to whom should affidavits be made? So an affidavit may be made by an agent. Are you an agent of the government when you're running around with their identity and you're volunteering to serve their programs socially? We're all agents, every single one of us. We didn't know it. But yet, okay, well, that makes sense. For an agent, we should have an office, which means I'm an officer. Oh, shit, yeah, okay. Which is why they call us sir. Sit down, sir. That's actually a term of respect. But yet, well, then how can they be telling me what to do if they respect me? That's kind of a bit of a mind screw. But yet, that's what's going on. Every time the cop pulls you over, can I see your identification and license, sir? What? Are they talking about the sir as in the surname? Do they know that we're doing something kind of shady and fraudulent? And now they're just waiting for us to not know how to defend ourselves so that they can attach liability to us because we've already promised that we're going to pay for it? Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. So anyway, an affidavit made by any agent, that's all of us, or by a solicitor, when he has personal knowledge of the facts. That's you acting as an agent, giving your personal knowledge to a lawyer so that the lawyer can actually go and help you crank out this affidavit. That's part of the show. That's part of us not knowing what to do and how to do it. That's why they got to act for our best interests. Makes sense? So this is just going to keep going on about having personal knowledge. Okay, this is all good. So again, we're talking about a lot of lawyer stuff here, but you know what? We can actually just suggest, hey, this is good for entertainment. But again, look at this, because we're talking about petitioners, verifications, signs, swears, seals. There's a lot of meat in here. Just put the equity eyes on it for what it is. Requisites and frame of an affidavit. The ordinary parts of an affidavit are the proper title or style. So that's an open door for getting a whole bunch of equity good stuff dropped right there. Boom. So that when a judge, a clerk, a registrar, any of these types see the proper title or styling of your affidavit, they know whether they need to treat you publicly or privately. You'll let them know right there. That's an important part. The venue, okay, what is it that we're actually talking about? Or where is it that we're actually talking about this stuff? The name of the deponent or the name of whoever's making this affidavit. Again, if they want the name of the deponent, we have some options here, do we not? Are we going to include the surname? Just be conscious of, okay, if we're going to add our name to something, is it our name or is it the state's name? And for what purposes and applications and intent is the rest of this thing going to determine how we actually use that thing? Again, as part of the updated affidavit, I actually said, so for example, Jody Lynn, and then I actually put surname in brackets. Surname, something going on with the surname. Surname and trust in brackets right after the rest of her name. This way, if someone looking at her paperwork goes, okay, I see you're Jody Lynn and surname. Oh, that's in trust. Oh, shit. That means they actually can't even ask you about it because why? It's held in trust. Do you have privity to the trust? No. Do I know you? No. Who the hell are you? Shut up, sit down. Unless you're directly expressing an interest in my trust, which I can entertain that. I can accept your proposals as grantee. I can attach liability to it. I can do stuff with it, and I can turn around and I can grant it. I can settle it. I can do some stuff. This is what being trust knowledgeable is all about. We can create these trusts on the fly, and we can get them to stick if we know how to do it properly. It takes a little bit of practice. So again, you've heard me arguing with people online before about, oh, you can do all this just by mouth. You don't need anything in writing. Yeah, okay, well, after you've done this for a while and you got your head wrapped around it so complete that you can just belt all this stuff out at at your leisure, sure, okay, yeah. Those individuals can sure speak it. Great, have at her. Here's the thing, though. Whenever we're dealing with land, that shit must be in writing. So that little clause trumps the, oh, we can do everything by voice. Well, you can do everything by voice except for anything you're talking about has to do with land. And remember, what's our definition of land? It possibly means anything and everything. So we might want to be a little bit more particular. We may want to, as Gibson is describing earlier, take your statement, take your state of mind, and reduce it to writing. That means the writing is a reduction. It's less than the other, right? I can only write down so much stuff. I can't put all my emotion, I can't put all of my knowledge into mere writing. Writing is a very limited thing. Yeah, it's fantastic. Don't get me wrong. It does a whole bunch of incredible stuff. Yes, I know, but it's still a limited state of mind. That's why it's being reduced. Okay, so we're going to move on here a little bit. The venue, it talks down here, number 2, what the venue is. The venue should appear on the face of the affidavit so that it may be known in what county and state or province and territory, wherever you were, the oath or the affirmation was taken. So that's just exactly, it's just saying where you are so that they can determine jurisdictions. That's what this is technically all about. The name of the deponent, the substance or the statement of facts. The substance. Okay, let's just take a look at that word for a second. Substance. Sub means below. Stance could mean how you're standing. Are you in your karate stance? Or are you in your, I don't want to slip when I'm getting out of the shower because it's wet stance? Whatever. A stance is a particular position of a body. Is it not? How are you standing? So how are you sub-standing? Why are you sub anything? We actually got to look at that word again. The judges, the courts, the affidavits, all these people, all these things, all these entities, they want to see our substance. We need to come up with a better word that's talking about substance, but that's like not sub, it's actually above. So we need the above-stance. Yeah, I just made that up. Does that word exist? I don't know, but it does now. Because now you all know what the hell it is I'm trying to talk about. And because we have an agreement of the parties, literally, this is how it works, we actually just created a law. When you have agreement of the parties, it creates the law. Now, once we do that, equity can't even really wiggle in there and fix it for us. We have to do that ourselves. Okay, Darren, what agreement are you talking about where the laws were created? When you took that silly birth certificate and you made that social application, that is an agreement. You had them as a party and you got you as a party. 2 parties in agreement, agree of mind. We have an agreement of the minds. We actually now have proof of unsound mind, is what it really is. And again, that's just like, look up here where I'm throwing the cursor at it. So we got affidavits being sworn to by defendants filing them if the adults and of sound mind. So this is why we really got to establish whether we're of sound mind. And again, as I was saying the other day, I don't like the word sound. There's something about it just ringing wrong with me for some reason. That is there's a lot of admiralty, there's a lot of legal attached to that word. That's why they're using it right there. Again, trickery. Look at everything that they're doing at us. Sound mind. Okay, so sound mind and unsound mind. So what would unsound mind be? Okay, so they're suggesting that's the lunatics. So if you're of sound mind, right, you are not a lunatic. But yet, so here you claim to be of sound mind, and then you sign your affidavit without doing it duly. You don't reserve any specific rights. You just basically now affirmed you're still a freaking lunatic. Although you claim to be of sound mind at the beginning, you ended it not of sound mind. So what is a judge going to do? The judge is going to look at a series of facts. If I'm a judge, I'm going to say, well, look at that. The person started out all good, but then dropped the ball huge. So is that person ready? Is that individual ready? Nope. Next. Sucks to be you because now you got to go to jail for 30 days. Not my fault. You don't know anything. That's all the judges are doing. They are impartial. They are apolitical. What does that mean? That means they don't give a shit what the flavor of the day of the government is, whether it's the Republicans or the Democrats or the Liberal Party up here in Canada. The judges don't care about any of that shit. That's all political. The judges are not involved. They're separate. Once they're appointed to their positions, they're it for life until they die or retire. That appointment cannot be removed unless they screw up really, really, really badly. Here's an example. Last night, Jody and I are watching Hell on Wheels. I'm rather attached and fond of this particular TV show because I worked on it. At the very beginning of this show, we got the railroad coming in across America, okay? So you got this whole corporate event unfolding. You got all the natives and the Indians all pissed off trying to kill the British people right after the Civil War. You got a whole bunch of conflict. There's a whole bunch of shit going on anyway. The railroad company rolls in, right? It's got this little village established. The owner of the railroad company appoints a certain gentleman to be his head of security. Okay, so now this guy is managing all of the railroad's business. He's kind of like a judge, a jury, and an executioner all in one guy. So now you have another guy who comes along that has a little bit of knowledge because he got in trouble. He's getting accused of a murder he didn't do. So now these two guys butt heads. Boom. So you got this appointed law figure who's trying to arrest this guy and hang him because on railroad property, something happened. So railroad security is trying to bring this guy to justice. This guy says, this isn't a court. Who the hell are you? And security guy goes, the owner of the railroad company appointed me. Clearly, this appointment has power. There's something's going on. Again, judges are appointed from the federal level of every country in the world right now. That's where they're coming from. So they use federal legislation to appoint judges to act provincially. There's 2 jurisdictions minimum that they're dealing with. The judges are charged through scripture. I shit you not, through the Bible. That's where it all comes from. I just saw the verse the other day where I am charging the judges to govern you. It's not the politicians that are governing us. No, not really. It's more like the judges are. Politics is an illusion. The fact that they even have a course in university called political science. To me, I just laugh when I hear that shit because they're taking an illusion and they're now teaching a course how to interpret the illusion. It's so mind-bending. But it's out there. There's an entire industry clearly developed around it. Private corporate guy in charge of a railroad contract can appoint someone to act in a very powerful position. Well, you know what? We can appoint too. That's one of the main fundamental backbone pieces of our affidavit here is we're setting the stage, we're clearing the path so that we can come forward and duly appoint someone. What is that? How do I boil that down a little bit better? We're going to duly nominate, we're going to duly elect, and we're going to duly appoint. You put those 3 together. That's anybody serving in a public capacity. Hey, officer, careful, I might duly appoint you. He might look at you go, what are you talking about? Well, because I got clean hands and because I'm not possessed of the person and because I know a few things about, again, I don't want to say contract law. I'd rather say because I know how to create an agreement even without your acceptance. That's called a trust. Because you've sworn an oath to serve in a capacity means that I can come along and reserve that and make it benefit me and not you. I have the power to switch the tables. I have the power to subrogate. I have the power to stand in the creditor's shoes and put you in the debtor's shoes. So whatever ticket you just wrote out there and you signed it, thank you. I'll accept that as grantee, and now I'll express that as trust property, number RN123456789. And on such, I have the power vested in me to appoint you to be the duly elected, duly nominated trustee and debtor of the ticket you just wrote me. Take the ticket that he just wrote you, quickly fill that shit in on it, because remember, he's sitting behind you for another 20 minutes, right? Because he's got to finish his paperwork. Now that you've captured the interest in this instrument, walk back to his car. Make sure he can see your hands, because this is dangerous. As a matter of fact, unless you're Bryce, I don't recommend doing this. because the cop could shoot you right now because he's going to be yelling at you, get back in your vehicle, get back in your vehicle. Start spinning around, have that piece of paper in your hand, walk up to his windshield, but don't put it under his windshield wiper and say, sorry, officer, I'm exercising my disposition of security interest. Under trust conditions, I've appointed you. I've duly elected, duly nominated, and appointed you, Officer Johnston, badge number 1234512. And as such, I suggest you stop pointing that gun at me because I'm the creditor. I may take offense to that. I may charge you with attempted murder. I feel very threatened at the moment. So I suggest you stand down. And I suggest you hear for a moment what it is I'm talking about. Or go ahead and arrest me. Yes, as a matter of fact, bring me before a judge or a magistrate so that I can deal with this matter properly right now. If I have to punch you in the face so that you arrest me and take me before a judge, I will. That's a little extreme, but again, Bryce likes doing extreme shit. Don't get me wrong. Bryce learned from some of the best. Dean and I have done some pretty crazy shit too, trust me. Other times for other stories. Okay, continuing here. I know our hour is almost up and I'm getting a little bit carried away with everything. The name of the affiant, the person making the affidavit should begin by his statement by giving his name and place of residence. Well, let's change residence. Let's talk about a trust. Oh, and here's why. I took this right out of the Revenue Canada rules and all their bullshit that they deal with. A trust, once we create a trust has something called a principal trust residence. The trust is a resident of Canada, not the man, not the woman. We deal with the trust. The trust is resided. It's not like we also reside where the trust is. No, the trust is at arm's length. It means it's not attached to me. That's the whole concept of being at arm's length. It means it's open to interpretation. I may or may not have an interest in it. I'm not attached to it, depending on what the hell it is we're talking about. That could change at a moment's notice. A moment's notice. Mo mind. What's mo? M-O. Mo mind. We can express a trust at a moment's notice to an officer. Now that you've swished all the security interests on this particular ticket, you can actually give it right back to him and now demand the white copy. The owner, the creditor, gets the white copy. That's why we always get the pink, the blue, or the yellow. We get anything other than the white. The white one disappears. We never see that one. Well, there's a reason, because we keep abandoning our interests in it. That white one is the one we really want, not a copy of it. Although we can express our interest on the copy of it, yes, and we can fix all this shit, yes. I'm just saying, in terms of a clerical or in terms of an administrative process, in terms of filing and recording documents, they take the white. The white is kind of the power one, believe it or not. Pink slips are also important. When you do get the pink one, it's also evidence of title. You hear these guys, or you see these guys online when they race their fancy cars for pink slips. Pink slip is actually a form of ownership. Whoever loses this race, I get your car. Do you agree? Yep. Witnesses? Yep. Check. Yep. Let's go. That's actually a trust expression. I'm going to talk a little bit here again about, okay, what is a trust? A trust is comprised or put together with 4 key elements. If you meet all these 4 elements, you've created a trust. I'm not going to talk about that right now. It's coming. So the substance or the statement of facts is in this affidavit must be very relevant or pertinent to the application based on it. I mean, clearly, you're not going to be coming into a court of equity and talking about chemtrails and how you're pissed off at chemtrails. No, get your name situation dealt with first. Get your position, get your standing, get your power, get your control back. Once you're there, now go fix the chemtrail problem. Lunatics have no business trying to fix chemtrail problems. Shut up and sit down. An affidavit should give all the necessary circumstances of time, place, and manner, and other material incidents. And it is a matter that should be sufficient when considered by itself or in connection with other affidavits to warrant, again, Remember in the petition last night, if you were here for that class, we're talking about how the court is warranted to act on your behalf and protect you for once, not kick your ass. How does the court become warranted? Through your affidavit. And supported by it, the matter it contains and all the material circumstances are involved in attending is actually a pretty important word, should be stated positively. This is very important. State your facts positively. That means start it like this. I am. Da, 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 da. Don't start it like this. I am not. Da, 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 da. See the difference? One's positive, one's negative. Dean and I spent years developing affidavits in the negative. I am not a public person. I am not a public slave. I am not da, 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 fatal. The judge goes, you guys were close. Not even rip garbage. See? I wish I had actually put eyeballs on Gibson's book here when we first started all this shit, not 15 or 20 years later. Would have saved us a lot of grief. We didn't know. The conclusion. Okay, what do you mean? So look at this. After we develop our affidavit, and again, make it legibly written in ink. Legibly means so that people can read it. If your handwriting sucks, get better handwriting. Practice. Believe it or not, when I was in school, grade 5, I used to do the homework or the assignments I did do. I used to do them in calligraphy. 8 different styles: italic, Roman, Gothic, Celtic. I used to mix it all up all the time. And the teachers were like, oh my God, Darren, you didn't do the assignment. You actually didn't do any of it in substance, but you're actually writing your shit in calligraphy. What the fuck is wrong with you? Again, 5 years, teacher, I spent a lot of time in my room, grounded, dreaming of lawnmowers, and writing my shit in calligraphy.
Wow.
Yeah, see, I had to get it in. At 1:59, 1 minute.
Oh, well done, baby.
Okay, so the oath is important. But here we go again. We're talking about the forms of affidavits. And I haven't even shared the piece of the paragraph. You know what? I'm not even going to bother talking about it. I'm just going to keep rolling with this for a few more minutes. And when we post today's revised version of the affidavit, I kind of styled it in kind of a pinky purple kind of a color. So, or no, sorry, this one's in orange. So I got blue, red. Today's in orange. So you're just going to see an orange paragraph added. That's what we're talking about here. But where you're going to see why it becomes important. The weight and effect of an affidavit. Well, there you go. Weight and effect. That's where we've been dropping the ball all these years. We didn't really bring a lot of weight, and none of our affidavits had any effect. Well, then how the hell did Dean get himself out of solitary confinement? Well, okay, this is the judges actually cutting us a break once in a while, where we did express enough equities on the face of a document, even though we dropped the ball and we still defeated it and we mixed or we commingled some public shit into it. The judges were still able to sort of get an idea of what the hell it was we're trying to do. And they actually, believe it or not, loved ones, they applauded us. They appreciated our effort to basically stand against Caesar and Satan himself to try to do what we tried to do. Dean holds the record in Canadian history for the longest stretch in solitary confinement. Dean. That's considered abnormal punishment almost nowadays. Talking about trying to beat Dean down and get him to submit and break him. He came out of that stronger than when he went in, and the guards watched it happen. So after a while, even though the things we were talking about, it pissed the judges off, it pissed the lawyers off, it pissed the sheriffs, we pissed off the entire effing system. But you know what? We still developed a respect. The system still appreciated what it was we were trying to do. I remember on 3 different occasions, myself, I've had sheriffs chasing me out of the courtroom into the parking lot, asking me questions about what the hell he or she just heard. They'd never heard anything like that before. And to be honest with you, loved ones, the version of how we're doing things today, again, I had 4 pages here of Gibson's book on affidavits, and I think I got through 1.5, 2 of them. So there's just so much meat and potatoes here. Affidavits to bills. Oh, there's petitions again. Pleas and answers. This thing just goes on, and it's a lot of I'd highly recommend when you read this stuff, don't get too frazzled if you get a little bit confused. Put it down, walk around, do the dishes, go cut the grass if it's not snowing. Just don't do it with my lawnmower. Twice I got it in. Take some time to have all this stuff absorbed. You're going to notice again, every time you see that word injunction, every time you see the word, process, petition, verification. Look at this. Here, I'm just going to read this. Again, keep in mind, loved ones, I actually haven't looked at this in Gibson's book for a couple of years. Maybe even a little bit longer. The force of a bill or petition greatly depends on the character of the affidavit attached to it. See, I haven't read this in a while and I'm just like buzzing. Your affidavit has no power or enforceability when you showed up in person and then you abandoned everything and you went right back to lunatic land. Your affidavit wasn't even worth the time you spent writing the stupid thing. But we didn't know. So take this moment to cleanse and push that energy out. Don't feel bad. It happened to all of us. Dean used to like to call all of us ignorant. Well, you don't know how to fill out an affidavit because you're ignorant. That was such a slap in the face to people. And again, we caught a lot of flack for that. A lot of people didn't like being told they're ignorant, but do a little Googling on what the word ignorant actually means. It doesn't mean it just means that you haven't put any time into a certain something to become knowledgeable of it. That's all. But still has that derogatory snap to it. So again, I don't even have to talk about this anymore. If we don't change the character of our affidavit, and look, there's that word attached again. I was just talking about attachment 15 minutes ago. That is a very important, what I would call, and what our colleague in the United States would call, a statement of interest, an SOI. A statement, state of mind of interest. Oh, Your Honor, I understand that my affidavit would have no enforceability because I smothered it in the person. So grant me leave so that I can amend my affidavit, Your Honor, so that I can remove the cloud or I can redress the character. Boom. Okay, loved ones, I'm just going to let you see how this just forwards on here. If you don't, you know what? Kim's going to post this anyway, so this isn't a big deal. But you know what? Just to have a quick little eyeballs. Oh, here's John Doe again. The complainant or the petitioner makes oath, affirms that. Again, we've gone over this. This form will do when a bill or answer is filed by a corporation. That's kind of interesting when we're all kind of acting as corporations. Affidavit of an agent or lawyer. All those years, I guess we should have been saying our affidavits are as an agent. And I know Carl Lentz and a few other people talked about agency a lot. And as a matter of fact, I remember one time he called me on the phone and he was asking me about agency and I was playing stupid. I didn't know Carl very well. I kind of pretended like I didn't know a lot. I kind of just voluntarily said stupid things and made it sound like Dean was a really smart one and I didn't have a freaking clue what was going on. Carl now takes this phone call and he puts it up on the internet. But look at this. I had a conversation with Dean Clifford's brother and these two jokers don't know anything. Right? Whatever he turned it into. I'm like, have fun, my friend. I still applaud the guy for what he's accomplished. Again, there's this weird respect between all the kind of top people in the world that are doing this. Whether we agree with each other or disagree with what it is that we're talking about, you know what, it doesn't matter because each one of us, this is how I see it. Each one of us kind of homed in on a specific little something and we ran with it. Carl ran with property. Okay, well, that's pretty vague. For what we're trying to do now, we can see how property, that's an incredibly vast array of possibilities. So when he just rolls into court and demands his property back, I'm going to suggest that we bump that up a few degrees. Let's turn up the heat on that. Let's improve the shit out of that. All of these other higher end people that have spent their lives studying this stuff, they've all kind of went in, did some specific research, and came back with some incredible stuff. So, and again, right at the bottom here, we're going to say, our affidavit really accompanied by a certificate of his official capacity by the clerk of the court or before any state commissioner or notary public under their seals of office, the court or clerk and master. Aha. Remember that envelope we posted there not long ago, where on the beginning, on the front of the envelope, it's addressed to the clerk and master. To the clerk and master in equity, to the clerk and master, civil side, sitting in equity. There's a nifty little title. Appoint. So this master may appoint a special commissioner to administer the oaths either in this state or other states. What I'm suggesting here, loved ones, is when we lay out a whole bunch of smackdown in this very special affidavit, when we actually do one properly for the first freaking time ever, here we go. And once this bad boy gets notarized, this thing is going to become incredibly powerful. We're going to use it to pave the way here because we've met all the proper equitable components of it for the first time. And again, I do spend a lot of time online. I do spend a lot of time looking at other people's processes here and there. If I'm tickled by it a little bit, I will give it 2 minutes just to see what the flow, just to see where they're at. And from everything I've looked at over the years, no one has really truly gotten this affidavit part even figured out. Some of us have been close. And again, Dean got himself out of solitary with something he wrote in crayons on a paper towel. So at some level, the judges will start to utilize their discretion. They will allow a judicial decision to be made without the public influence if we bring it in writing, if we can prove we're not a lunatic. Our affidavit is a story of all these special events that entitles us today, Your Honor, to be even making this claim or bringing this petition to your attention for immediate redress. Redress the character. I love that one. So again, loved ones, okay, I'm going to post or have Kim post here, again, just this little blurb out of Gibson's book, and then the little additional paragraph I added. And then between today and tomorrow, again, we'll take some of these things we're looking at here, and I'm going to smash it into that affidavit and improve it. So again, by the time Monday-ish rolls around, our affidavit's going to be pretty done. There's got to be not a lot of room left to improve it. Again, but we have to actually start making time for the quick deed to be inserted into this and finishing up the petition. And as a matter of fact, I don't know if I'm doing the petition class tonight, right? We're not? Okay. So if I'm not doing it tonight, be prepared tomorrow for a little bit longer class to sort of make up for me not doing it tonight. So petition, affidavit, and deeds all mixed in and all developed by Monday night so that we all have an idea of what Bryce is heading into. And Scott's paperwork, Lone Wolf's paperwork, anybody else that is kind of compiling and learning and putting all this stuff together, all of that applies. Everything that we're doing is all going to start to come together here real quick right at the end. Now, again, can you imagine for the first time creating an affidavit properly and paying securities into court for the first time together to furnish your injunction? This is the first time, loved ones, that we're actually putting this whole thing together where it's actually going to work. We've talked about this moment for about 25 years. So I'm kind of excited that it's actually happening for once. Okay, loved ones, I think we can check out here, and I will see you tomorrow morning. Well, tomorrow afternoon, I guess. Same time, same place. We'll clean up this affidavit. We'll keep it going. And then at some point here, I'm going to figure out how we're going to bring the deed introduced into this. I'll probably maybe devote half of the class to deed for the affidavit and maybe half of the class in petition. We'll start talking about the deed so that in kind of the same time construct, I can be dealing with all things, all three, all at the same time. We'll see how this plays out. Anyway, loved ones, I think we're going to roll here. So there's another one for the archive. Everybody, hope you enjoyed that one. Again, post your comments in the chats. Light up the other channels with your questions. Keep all that shit rolling hot. Keep that momentum. 7 o'clock tonight is the other program we're going to be talking about and what you're putting in it. And if you said coffee, well, that's fine. I'm going to suggest we can put something else in there. Okay, loved ones, here we go.